I'm Patrick. I'm 18 years old. I'm from Boise, Idaho, and I'm a freshman at Stanford University. Thinking about majoring in poli sci, not really sure yet. We're still figuring that whole thing out. So I identify as just a gay cis man. Pretty straightforward and simple.
So, can you like describe how you came to find out that you were gay?
Ooh, yeah, that one's like tricky for me. I don't know. I feel like I feel like it's been something that I've always kind of known. Whether or not I admitted it to myself was kind of more of my journey. So I think around first semester junior year was when I really started to figure out like, oh, maybe I'm not what I thought I was. Um, I don't think there was ever like one specific turning point in that. I think it was like kind of a process over a couple of years, but I think junior year was the first time where I was like, okay, that's cool.
How was that experience with your family?
So I am from Idaho, a very conservative state, and I went to Catholic school and am from a very conservative family. Um, so I think a lot of this journey was by myself. I just kind of had to figure it out as I went. There was no real um, guiding hand for me, which I think is true for so many people in our situations. Um, I think there was a lot of fear with that when there was like fear of rejection or fear of like, I don't know, not being loved by your family or whatever. So I think that kind of grew into a lot of resentment towards my family, when I was like, I would like want to connect with them, but then like when I would feel like kind of shut off, I'd like grow to resent them a little bit more, which has been worked through. It was just like kind of like the comments or like when they would say things before I came out about like the LGBTQ community in a negative light. Um, and those comments would just like, I don't know, I would like remember them, and that was a problem. Like if I would have forgotten them, it would have been totally fine, but for whatever reason I would just remember those comments so clearly. So those were kind of like the things like um, that made me feel like they had a negative attitude towards the community. And I mean, again, like super super Catholic, super conservative. Yeah, so just like those general mindsets of like, and would we get in debates over like politics or things, I'd be like, oh god, I'm out to my family now and everything is like super great, went so much better than I expected. But yeah, it was definitely a struggle for sure.
How did you feel with your friends about your sexuality?
Same kind of deal. So again, I figured out junior year, and I made like a strategic plan, because I had like all these goals or whatever, and I didn't want this to interfere with those goals. One of my big things was like getting into college, right, and all the steps that I would do that. So um, one of those was like becoming like school president or whatever, and I like really wanted to run for school president. So one of my big fears was like if I were to come out, I would kind of lose some friendships or like respect among my peers. Um, so I ended up not coming out for that, and then also just like with like relationships with friends, and like I wanted to like make really good friends, and those were one of my goals, and I thought that would maybe get in the way when it didn't have to. So I decided to not come out to anyone until I graduated high school. So there were 2 years of just kind of like in the dark, like this little bit of a double life thing for me. Um, in terms of like coming out to my friends, my whole thing was like after I graduated, I wanted to do it in a way that was felt natural to me and in a way that I felt safe and comfortable. So I decided not to, and looking back on it, I'm still kind of wrestling with whether or not I would change that. I ended up accomplishing all of the goals that I wanted. I don't know if it was worth it. Is the question? I'm not sure.
So, Catholic school.
Yeah.
Um,
Who Catholic school?
were there like specific instances of like homophobia there?
Oh, for sure. So I was like Catholic, right? Like I used so I don't know if you know like the whole like Catholic deal, but I was a confirmed Catholic, which means like you like choose to be baptized basically. I would lead school prayers. I would give out the Eucharist. So like that's like the bread that Catholics eat that signifies Jesus' body during mass. Um, go to confession. Confession was probably where I felt like the most um, homophobic tendencies because they'd give you this little pamphlet and it'd be like, here are a list of possible sins you've done. And it's like, if you're getting confusing ideas of homosexuality or whatever, or like if you have a friend who is confused about their sexuality and have been rude to them, and I don't know, they just like was like very it was very hard for me to like read this pamphlet and be like, wait, confusing. There is one thing I'm not, and is not confused. The general culture at Catholic school was like, well, maybe wasn't explicitly homophobic. Among my friends, there were definitely like times like I got back to Boise yesterday, and I got into a car with some friends, and they're like, "Oh wow, this music doesn't go very loud. That's super gay." And I was like, "Ah, fuck," you know.
So, were there any other like communities or extracurriculars that you were part of?
Yeah, so I was on the soccer team for 4 years, which was super great. I did a lot of volunteering. That was kind of my thing. Student government was a big one. Yeah.
Did any of those have any influence on your queer expression?
I think I was definitely a little more careful when I was like on the soccer team, I guess, like when you're surrounded by and my school is like I would say 95% white, upper middle class slash like the 1% um, men and women. So when I was on my soccer team, I don't know, I was definitely a little more careful about kind of like keeping myself in check and like not letting things slip. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that was kind of a general theme throughout my high school career, though. It was very much like living a double life, you know?
Has that experience changed now that you're at college?
Oh my God, so much. Yeah, so much. Yeah. So I am completely out at Stanford, which is great. It's been so great. I expected it to be like a bigger deal than it was, and it really wasn't. Which is great and exactly how I wanted it to be. I want it to be very much a whatever. I don't think it's relevant enough to me to take over my life or change people's perceptions of who I am. Um, yeah, no, it's been super, super easy. It's like really just kind of a whatever almost. But it's allowed me to like, I feel like since I was like constantly stressed about it a lot in high school, it would like take away from me devoting energy to other places. But now I don't really have to use energy like worried about this part of me, and I could like use it for like other things, which is super cool.
So, do you have any advice for like cis straight people and how they should interact with queer people?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I'll give a specific example. I was there was a bunch of people in my dorm, and I had some snacks, and I was like, "Oh, do you guys want any snacks?" And this guy turned to me. He's like, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm straight." And I was like, "Okay. Do you want any snacks?" Like, I don't know. Just like if you feel like for whatever reason uncomfortable around someone in the queer community, like try just like be respectful. Don't try to make it a point that like you are not attracted to them or they're probably not attracted to you. Like it's really not that big of a deal for you to be uncomfortable about it anyways. If you are, please come talk to us and talk to us about it. I'm sure we'll make you less uncomfortable. But yeah, and then I think when you're talking about us in third person, like you were trying to describe us to a friend, um, I don't know. I kind of find it annoying when they're describing us and the first thing they describe is like, oh, he's gay, you know?
Hmm.
Like there's so many other points about me that I would like to like be known as besides that. So there's some good ones. Just like be respectful. I really don't think we're all that difficult to understand.